You are now listening to Stockton 360 News Magazine here on KWDC 93.5 FM.
Good evening and welcome to Stockton 360, your news magazine on your radio station right here on KWDC 93.5 FM in your hometown of beautiful, lovely Stockton, California. This is Governor Don.
Aran Zamora.
Professor Jimenez.
And we have a very, very special guest in the studio, none other than Vice Mayor
Christina Fugazi.
How are you, Christina?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Stockton 360. Welcome to KWDC. Is this your first time here at the radio station?
This is my first time here at the radio station.
Well, hopefully it won't be your last time. You, of course, welcome every week.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Yes,
Just come back.
We'd love to have you back. Really, we've been looking forward to having you here. We've had your assistant and protege, Mr. Civil Rights Activism himself, Motek Azuma Sanchez, also just walked into the building. Welcome, Motek.
What's up, everybody?
All right. Wow. Man, it's already like the best show we've had. It's been on for like 35 seconds.
It's the holiday special.
Is that what it is? Oh, man. So we got lots and lots to talk about.
Sing a song?
Yes. We have a holiday song for you. Ron's has got
Jingle
one ready,
bells.
too. Yes, indeed. So, of course, we like to start off. Are we going to start off a little, what's going on the streets and how cold is it? Or are we going to?
Yes, we are.
All right. So how cold is it, Professor Jimenez?
We are currently at 55. We're at 55 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
It's partly cloudy, 0% precipitation.
Okay.
We are going to a low of 38 degrees tonight, and tomorrow waking up at 62 degrees.
Whoa. Okay. Wait. Low to what?
38.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. Not like last night.
Oh,
last night
man.
was 31, right?
Yeah. Last night the grass was. When I woke up, the grass was frozen. So
It was.
grass
So
was
was
like.
your windshield, I bet.
Yes. So
Okay.
cool. What's the traffic like?
So the traffic is, and by the way, the traffic is and weather report tonight is brought to you by Tender Donuts. And at the Highway 12, we are going really slow.
Slow.
As we turn around to the 99 at Woodbridge, Lodi is also at a slow.
That's northbound?
Yes, it is.
Whoa.
At Manteca towards Salida, it is also another slow commute.
Wow, it's just
And
everywhere.
at the 88, though, and 26, it is clear.
Mm-hmm.
And at the Crosstown Freeway, again, coming into Stockton is slow.
Mm-hmm.
And at 580 into Stockton and 205, it's very, very slow. So commuters, be safe out there.
Take your
And,
time.
Yeah, make sure no texting while driving.
So 5 sounds clear. I didn't hear anything about
Oh, and I-5, yes, it's clear.
Very nice. So, yeah, just don't get too excited when it clears up so it can stay clear, all right?
Right.
Yes, no texting and driving. Be safe out there. The text can wait, but your family can't, so get there safe. All right. Hey, you know what we're going to talk about today. I mean,
Oh, yeah, we are.
It was on, it was quite interesting. I was like, what kind of day is this? Because I opened up the front page of the paper and there's like really, really nice things about Mayor Silva. I was like, this is not April 1st. What's going on here? Boy, the record is really piling it on. But man, we heard nothing but positive feedback. Well, not nothing, but there was a few disgruntles. But overall, I think a very, very positive reaction to the town hall meeting last night. Vice Mayor, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I would say I would agree with your assessment of that. There were several hundred people there, and they were looking for positive information about, hope for the future of the city of Stockton and the people that live here. And they stood up, they were clapping, they were cheering, everybody on that was participating in that. And they want to have, they want to take their city back.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that really what we need, is to galvanize the community and to reinvigorate the claim on the community, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Motek, what was your take?
I thought it was a good turnout. I thought it had some positive information. I thought the handbook that was passed out, the Stockton Proud handbook that was passed out, was the highlight of the event for me. There was, of course, some things I felt, I could be a little more critical, feel like this could have been better, that could have been better, but I'm not even going to focus on that.
Right.
Instead, we're just going to focus on what did go right.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was good as far as putting forward more of a vision of what Stockton could be potentially in the future. So it kind of gives the community and the city government something to actually calibrate towards, right?
Right.
Because right now, I would say the city doesn't really have a clear direction. And I don't just mean that from city government. I mean kind of just in general, the community in general.
Right. Now, one thing I noticed, it was in the article, a very particular point about some of the hang-ups in the process and the idea of having a strong mayoral city government. And in the record put it as he even took a shot at the city manager. Of course, we're talking figurative, but was that point? How was that point received in the crowd? They estimated some 600 people attended.
Well, I'd like to jump in on that one.
Yes, please.
And I just want to point out that you know what, until you're on council, until you're on that seat, you really don't understand what's going on. You don't know how the relationship works. And I know that when I was elected and I went in to City Hall and had my first meeting, I had an outline of my goals.
Right.
And I was saying, hey, I want to do this, 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 this.
Sure.
And I was told, no, maybe, I don't think so. And that's a really tough system to work in. I mean, I'm a high school teacher.
Right.
I'm the master of my domain. I
That's
say,
right.
hey, this is what I want to do, and this is what we're doing today.
Lesson 3.
And then you get elected, and you're like, okay, so let's do these things.
Yeah.
And there's an entire process that you have to go through, and there's hoops that you have to jump through, and then there are things that I didn't realize you had to do in order to make those things happen, which I thought would just be simple. But you have to work with your staff, and you have to work with fellow council members. So you might have the best idea. You might know the answer to our problem here in Stockton, but if you can't get people behind you to support it, it's dead in the water.
Is it? I've heard it described like it's really the city manager that holds all the keys, and that you got to get some sort of a majority and sometimes a super majority to get things handled. And I've even heard it described like, almost a dictatorial puppet kind of regime, and I'm sure that, that was an opinion of somebody who was, fairly dissatisfied with the process. But some part of that has to ring true. How are we expected to function as a city with an elected official when the elected official is not the person making the decisions?
Well, this is my understanding, is that we as elected are supposed to make the policy and staff are supposed to implement the policy.
Right.
But then you also have this ideology where, too many cooks in the kitchen. So if you have all these people, so you do have the city manager. We have heads of departments that have their charge, what they're supposed to do. And the city manager oversees all of that, how that all works.
Right.
And sometimes we can't really see, well, where do we even fit in? Because, public gets mad at the electeds. Why aren't you getting this done?
Exactly.
And it's like, well, I'm trying.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not happening.
It's a tough game to play, and it is a bit of a game. When you talked about, the way to get things done, it's a lot. It must take tons of strategy, and then also how do you what's the word? How do you influence somebody to even consider what you're talking about if somebody else is already in their ear? So it seemed like he spoke about when he was on the show. He talked about there's a couple possible ways where he could get that charter changed, and it looks kind of like he's going for the public support route.
20,000 signatures.
20,000, which I think is not difficult at all. We probably don't have to leave the campus to get that many signatures.
No, we have over 310,000 residents in the city of Stockton.
Yeah. Then again, I think the voting population was just a little bit over 20,000 according to the last election. So, but this is a time I think that people really seem to be kind of with it, and it was. I thought kind of a very positive result. I mean, for the Record to come out with that kind of article, something happened, something significant happened.
Well, you couldn't deny the public's response, though.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You have, you said 600 people there.
Yeah.
I didn't count, but
Yeah.
you have that large of a group
Yeah.
that are standing up and clapping and are feeling inspired and,
Right.
and given hope. You can't deny that.
Yeah. So now he rolled out again in that book you talked about Stockton Proud, and I got a chance just to flip through it. I thought already just like there were some things that just popped out at me, and he has a number of we would say proposals, doing more with the airport. He mentioned that his kid's Lego set airport is bigger than our airport. What would that do for our city? Expanding the airport. I mean, how great would that be for our town to get more air traffic and to have more flights in and out? I mean, and then he also mentioned things like the a solar powered, I guess a solar plant in a sense. He mentioned a number of different things. Some high dollar things too, like the waterfront. What's your take on? I mean, there's been tons of money invested in the waterfront, and some would say, I mean, in hindsight, obviously were bad ideas, but at the time they sounded like good ideas. These sound like good ideas too? How do we know? How do we know? What's going to work for the waterfront in the downtown? What's your take on that?
Well, they say hindsight is 20/20,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But I'm all for public and private partnerships. That was a big part of the proposal. The loan situation, I'm a little leery of that. I'm not looking into getting us into debt in any way, shape, or form. But I think that there are people that do see the potential of Stockton and want to invest in Stockton. And that's what I'm saying. We got to do some public and private partnerships there. As far as the airport, I've spoken to the manager out there, is that what you call him, the airport head of the airport out there, and
airport overlord.
Yeah. We don't want to go there because I was going to say we're looking at flights into Mexico. And so you look at our population now, people are flying out of Stockton going to a destination, heading to Vegas, going to Phoenix. I have students that go to school out in Phoenix, Grand Canyon University, and it's very convenient for them and their families to know that they can just go to Stockton and fly out. They don't have to go to Sacramento or San Jose, anything like that. And I love that fact as well. I wish that we had more places we could fly to and from.
Right.
I mean, personally speaking, I rather not take that longer drive and pay a ridiculous amount for parking alone, going to those other airports. I'd go to Cabo. If they flew down to Cabo out of Stockton, I would be going regularly. I could head down on a Thursday and come back on a Sunday and be in school on Monday.
Wow.
That's so beautiful.
See, teachers know how to schedule, don't they? Grading papers on the flight.
I've done that. I did that all the way to Thailand, so been there, done that. That was an 18-hour flight.
Wonderful. And just so, I've heard your last name pronounced two different ways.
Fugazi.
Fugazi.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing? You're like the real Fugazi.
Hey, yeah.
That's right. Okay, good.
Not Fugazi.
That's what I was thinking.
I'm not the New York.
That's right.
New York.
That's right.
I'm not a fake.
That's
I'm all
right.
real.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Okay, wonderful. Because I know I'm about 3 more times I'm going to say it, and I didn't want to be saying the wrong thing.
That's
so,
all right.
All right. A number of we did see a little bit of I would say some backlash to it, and people had reservations and in opposition to the choice of venues, and the host organization as well, and in the record I saw the mayor was like pretty frank about it. It was like, hey man, I just wanted to do a town hall meeting, and next time I'm gonna make sure that it's in a neutral location. But it seemed like a lot of the people there were actually in very much support of what the mayor did. Even earlier in the week, when he gave the key to the city, to the symbolic gesture of giving the key to the city to God, there were some people who had some serious opposition about it, you know, and qualms about separation of church and state, which I totally respect because, you know, that's how our nation was formed. People were escaping religious persecution, and they wanted to find a place where it didn't really matter what religion you were. But there was a positive aspect to it, you know, and I think it gave hope to people who maybe people of faith. You know, I know that's a touchy subject, but if either of you had something to share on that point, we would welcome the discussion. Yeah.
Man, just you know, I'm gonna do me and keep it real like always,
Yeah.
and everything is not always what it seems, and when the fact that I mean, you mentioned that there was controversy or this and that. The reality, from my perspective, and looking at the players involved, is that's really a fabricated controversy, right? Nobody there yesterday was talking about it, except for the fact that it was kind of forced to be talked about and just touched on real briefly. Even in the record, in their article today, they just totally blew over it. It's because it's really a non-issue, right? And you have to look at it from a much greater perspective. You always got to question the source. Where is the source? Where is the issue coming from? And what does that person have to gain? Right. So the very same. Keep in mind, the very same people, this atheist group that was raising this fabricated controversy because. And I talked to the guy that's ahead of it, because as it just so turns out, he was in attendance yesterday.
Yeah.
At the very same, supposedly he was so afraid of the venue, so unwelcome and felt uncomfortable that he was. I caught him snooping around with a camera, not inside where everybody was listening to the speech, but outside in the halls. So I confronted him, had a conversation with him, and asked him, I said, you know, I thought you were kind of boycotting this event, so to speak. Oh, no, this guy's going around trying to do interviews, asking people if they feel uncomfortable being there. So it's like, if that's not on anybody's mind, why are you even making it the issue to make it so, right?
Sure.
And you got to look at whose purpose that it serves. And so when I look at press release that they put out where the only person in there, because they're convoluting it now with an LGBT issue, to say, well, what is the real issue, right? Is it the separation between church and state, which I totally support.
Right.
But the thing is, which I raised this issue to the gentleman yesterday, why is it that this is the third year that Mayor Silva has done this town hall at a church? Because I remember going to the one off of Cali Drive, I believe 2 years ago, if not last year.
Sure.
But all of a sudden, it's an issue now, and it just so happens that the person that you're allied with, that you're using their statements as a quote to justify how people are being turned away, so this fabricated kind of like, oh, people are being turned away, which there's no evidence of. Just so happens to be the campaign manager for Michael Tubbs, who is running for mayor against the incumbent. And so to me, it's a little disingenuous to not even disclose that.
Right.
And somehow introduce the campaign manager as this like expert witness testimony in saying that, well, the LGBT community feels turned away, they're offended by the church's stance on gay marriage. And the reality is, Michael Tubbs posts a daily gospel every day on his Twitter from the very same religion that this church is a part of, right? It might be a different branch, a different denomination, but it's all a part of Christianity.
Right.
And so the thing is, when I'm having this conversation with him yesterday, again, it just goes back to me to say it's a fabricated controversy that's intended to create a political hit piece, right? To say, because now you could try to label this person as, oh, he's against this community, he's against that community,
right,
and make it something that is not, to serve your purpose, so that when campaign season rolls around, now you have something you can put on a flyer that's negative to send out to households to hurt this candidate to favor this other candidate. And that's the dirty politics that exists in Stockton. That
everywhere.
Yes, but I've seen it and experienced it here in Stockton,
Sure,
so I can
definitely.
only speak for Stockton, right?
Yes.
But that's something that really holds our community back, rather than speak about the issues of what really people care about, like yesterday at the town hall, right? That's the time to talk about people want to know, what are you going to do to make this community safer?
Right.
What are you going to do to aid the educational system? What are you going to do to have our graduation, work with school districts, have our graduation increases, opportunities such as libraries reopening,
Right.
things like that. There were certain things that we talked about in the book that were introduced yesterday. We should be talking about how is that going to happen with the cost effectiveness, the public-private partnerships. How can this vision become a reality? Is this right for the community? Like, those are the real issues we should be talking about.
Right.
Instead, you have certain factions and interest groups here in this community with a political agenda that want to bring us down to talk about, I felt excluded, and you felt so excluded that you were in attendance, right? And so you're not going to come out and say that because nobody knew who you are, but I recognized you because you weren't like wearing a name tag going around saying I'm such and such, but I recognize them. And so that's the thing that people in Stockton just need to be aware of. What's beneath the surface, right? What's really behind people's motivations and what's really at stake for our community. And I say it's time to start talking about the real issues, right? Because that's our failure to do so at this certain junction in time is going to determine if we move forward or if we continue to be held back.
Definitely, and a great point. Now, I thought that was quite interesting because the mayor, I think his response was very, very straightforward and was a total diffuser. It was like, if anybody was offended, I apologize, and the next time we'll hold it in a place that will be, I guess, quote unquote, neutral.
Because it's a non-issue.
But the other thing is that, have we never seen town hall meetings in churches and things like that?
Well,
this is stuff that goes on all over the country.
And not only that, but here's the hypocrisy, right? When you have the same person saying, we don't feel comfortable going there, but you're the campaign manager for the opponent, and Michael Tubbs, who is that opponent, you've participated in plenty of events at churches. It was never an issue, right? So it was never an issue for your candidate, but now all of a sudden, your opponent, the incumbent, now you want to make it an issue. Why wasn't it an issue for when your candidate was doing events at church? I've been to church events for the Marshall Plan that were hosted at Progressive Community Church. There was the Black Crusades hosted at church. Not only are you hosting a church, but it's in the name
crusade.
And we could get into the history of what a crusade is.
Right, literally.
And how disrespectful that is to Middle Eastern Muslim community, right?
Sure, certainly.
So if we really want to get into the weeds about things, there's plenty to do so.
Right.
And that's why I say it's all about, you got to look at who the source is coming from, what their motive is. And this is not the first time that I've seen this coming from this group. Both of these groups, because there's two groups working together, and I'm not even going to mention who they are because people can figure it out.
Right.
If all they got to do is read the paper.
All right.
But that's I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
I was raised Catholic, and as a Catholic, I was raised like it's betrayal. It's a sin to even like go into a non-Catholic church.
Right.
Right. And so, how many Catholics were there yesterday that aren't making it an issue? Why? Because it's not a church service.
Right.
Exactly.
Regardless of what the building is.
It's a facility.
It's not a church service.
Right.
And so you're trying to make a convoluted issue and really holding back the community. And the community is what hurts at the end of the day. And that's why I'm glad that people didn't really pay attention to the issue. They're like, it's whatever. We want to talk about the real issues that's going on in our community.
Right. And time will demonstrate that because, it doesn't seem to be something that's going to really get much traction, and the mayor, like I said, he totally already addressed the point and air out the tire. That's nothing. There's nothing over there. So, and so I'm glad you discussed that so we don't have to go back to that part of the discussion. We want to get into this really interesting brochure. I think it's well put together. It has some clear plans out, but it says right here, hey, this is not a rigid a rule book. It says here, this is a game plan, not a rigid rule book. This presentation represents concepts and ideas that I'm hoping will spur feedback, collaboration, and above all else, a focus and unified determination to make our city great. So we're going to talk. When we come back from break, we're going to get into this brochure, Stockton Proud, presented by Mayor Anthony Silva. We have in the studio Vice Mayor Christine Fugazi. See. Christina Fugazi, vice mayor and political activist and extraordinary Motecuzuma Sanchez. This is Stockton 360. I'm Governor Don.
Aran Zamora.
And Professor Jimenez.
We'll be right back. Please stick around. This will be just a short break.
Your future begins at San Joaquin Delta College. Delta invites you to continue your education this spring at our Stockton or Mountain House campuses and Calaveras High. Earn an associate's degree. Delta also offers over 100 technical education programs. Many courses are transferable to four-year colleges. Earn your degree at home with over 200 online classes. Apply for spring to register for classes today at deltacollege.edu. See you in class.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? This is Pistol Pete, and I'd just like to let you all know that you can listen to KWDC 93.5 FM from anywhere by downloading the TuneIn app. Just search KWDC and get entertained by Ryan and the Repo Man from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., Stockton 360 News Magazine from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., The Bench Warmers from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and other shows from Monday through Friday. This is KWDC LP Stockton.
Support your community by supporting your community radio station, KWDC 93.5 FM. Your donation makes it possible for KWDC to produce and broadcast quality local programming. Send your donations to KWDC Foundation, 5151 Pacific Avenue, Stockton, California, 95207. For more information, visit us online at kwdcradio.org.
You are now listening to Stockton 360 News Magazine here on KWDC 93.5 FM.
And we're back. Welcome back to Stockton 360 on KWDC 93.5 FM. We are the voice of Stockton. This is Governor Don.
Aran Zamora.
And Professor Jimenez.
And we have special guests in the studio, Vice Mayor Christina Fugazi. And, of course, Motecuzuma Sanchez, who I just keep coming up new titles for this man because I've known him for years and years and years, and really a political activist, to say the least, but more than that, because for our hometown, you've been very active in paying attention, and there's been so many issues that you brought to my attention, you brought to other people's attention, and it's an important role to play, and we don't never in society do we have enough people like you, and so appreciate all that you do. I know you're not getting paid for it. I know that you do it because you believe in what's right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Comes from the heart.
yes, indeed, and appreciate that. And of course, I know the same to you, Miss Vice Mayor. So we wanted to go a little bit into this brochure, Stockton Proud, the game plan. We mentioned the port and the waterfront. Of course, those are the most expensive parts of the plan, which it would make sense. That's kind of like the figurehead of the town, the part of the town that people usually see first. And it's definitely the part of the town, if you try to if you look up Stockton and Google, you're going to see downtown and, and all the lights and such too. Some more effort on Miracle Mile was his hope too as well, which is already, I think, a pretty decently developed part of town. But yeah, sure, we could bring more attractions there. But I noticed that there was a lot of effort on like sports and athletics and making almost I don't want to call it like an adult playground, but an economic center based on athletics and entertainment. Which that makes a lot of sense too. But what about this idea for the solar farm? Green energy. I mean, California already committed to getting 50% of its energy from renewables by 2030. Is the solar farm? That's not far out, is it? I mean, that's something we could do, right?
And you can see that already happening around Stockton. You look at Lodi Unified School District. Their parking lots have solar panels. You go over to Chavez. You go out to the County Office of Ed. It's just responsible for us to be doing that because out at the county, we're off the grid now because of the amount of light, and energy that we're collecting from those solar grids. So it just kind of makes sense. And when we were doing LEED certification, which is for energy efficiency, when we build homes or buildings, I said I wanted platinum for everything. Anything that the city built, I wanted platinum because I said it's the right thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do looking into the future.
That's right.
So it's been done other places. And there's no reason why we couldn't do something similar here.
Sure, and there's a whole lot of open space and a ton of wind. We could even wind farm and do things like that. But getting energy from renewables, that's just the future, and we do need to be proactive about it. One thing I found interesting is the idea for the police annexes. Didn't we used to have those?
Yes.
So this is a long time coming.
Right. Well, and I would actually take a small step back from that, only because I don't think we even need to use portables. There are a lot of strip malls throughout this city that have vacancies.
Sure.
And I'm sure as a business owner, if I own that, I would be more than happy to offer free rent to have the police department. I'd even supply the coffee for the police department to set up shop in my shopping mall.
Oh, yeah.
You go out to Western Ranch there's a space that they could go in that strip mall.
They used to be there, didn't they?
Yeah.
Right.
And do you think people are going to be, trying to move their bootleg videos and do their drug transactions knowing that the police are right there?
How about no?
Probably not. So the portables are a nice idea, but I'm sure if we went knocking on some doors to some business owners, they'd be more than happy to offer some space.
Sure, and at least, if not for free, at more savings than putting portables in.
But we need to get our police officer numbers up.
That's true.
We are grossly behind the ball on that. Back when Mayor Chavez was here, he commissioned a study to be done by Dr. Anthony Baraga out of Harvard University that said that we needed to have 900 officers for a city this size with the problems that we have. Not 485, not what we currently have, 391, but really we need more. We can see that when we laid off all those officers, we had record level, homicides.
Sure we did.
So, but like I said, going back to that, I think that people would welcome. I wish my neighbors, I would love to have a police officer live in my neighborhood.
Right.
I have one, but they're from Antigua, so.
But they're still sworn in. So.
The car's in the driveway, right?
Tell them to come to Stockton. That's a lateral. We'll take them.
Let's swing by.
Maybe he's just too scared.
Oh, man. Okay, let's table that conversation.
Okay.
Oops.
You need to lift more weights. Now, this is something that's a long time coming and really sorely missed. These kids clubs. There is if you ask people, young people, what is the biggest problem with Stockton? And we actually did a poll. And, of course, the number one is crime. Everyone knows that. Even if they don't know it, they know that's the correct answer.
Yeah.
But for young people, their number two answer is there's nothing to do in town. There's nothing to do. Now, we know that's technically false. But the perception that there's nothing to do is very real and very powerful. And so to have more centers for youth involvement and kids clubs, so to speak, isn't that a very worthwhile investment? I mean, doesn't that do all sorts of wonderful things for our community?
I'm a high school teacher, so I hear it from my students all the time, and I tell them when they say, there was nothing to do, I gave them a list. It's about having access to information for a lot of that stuff. But once again, there's funding that has to be considered with that. And on the flip side of that, my concern is I would like to see if we could reopen the truancy center, because we have a lot of kids that are out on the street that aren't up to doing what they should be doing, being in school, and holding people accountable for that. Your children need to be in school. But if you do everything right, here's this carrot, here's this opportunity, here's this program for you.
Sure.
I wish we had midnight basketball league. I
yeah.
wish all the gyms could be open. Everything gets locked up at a certain time. The school campuses are locked up.
Yeah.
When kids are like, my parents aren't home yet from work, I wish I could be doing something.
Sure.
That's another reason why we'd like our libraries all open with their hours extended as well.
Sure.
So there's a lot of things that we could be doing. I definitely think that the youth should be one of our focus, if not one of our main focus, because crime that's happening is between 14 and 26 years of age.
Sure.
So I'm supportive of creating programs and places for our youth to go.
Now, of course, beautification improvement. It used to. What do they call it? They called it before removing blight. I think this is a much better term. What is blight? But
it's more proactive.
Yes.
Terminology.
But this one, I think, touched me in my heart. Stockton Tech. He said that we are poised to become like the next Silicon Valley. Isn't that just merely an application of resources pooled with intent and direction? And how difficult would it be for us to be that? I mean, you're an educator.
Well, let me think of something. Let me throw something out there. So
Yes.
let's look at Tesla.
Take your time.
Let's look at Tesla.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we were on, we were one of the sites that was being
Considered,
looked out
yeah.
by Tesla. But can you imagine being in the boardroom of Tesla and they throw out the name Stockton, and we're talking about 2 years ago, knowing what was going on in Stockton? What do you think that the board members were probably thinking when Stockton was thrown out there? And think about it. We have the port, we have rail, we have freight, we have boat. This would have been a perfect location for a company like Tesla to locate their facility.
Certainly.
And then you have people who say that we don't have the educated workforce. But if you go ride the Altamont Monday through Friday and you get caught up in that mess, there are plenty of educated, skilled, trained people that are going over the hill to go work in the Bay Area.
That's right.
Because they offer that higher wage, or they can't find that job here. So I don't want to say that. I was saying that we might be the next Silicon Valley because we have our wonderful ag. Listen, I'd rather eat food than drive my car any day of the week.
That's right.
It's more important to me.
That's right.
But
that's right.
But I think we kind of have to create our own little niche here, and I think that there are opportunities. But I don't want to go as far as saying that we're going to be the next Silicon Valley.
Okay.
That's just me personally.
No, and no, respected. There were again, we got the details right here. A number of different. Really, you would just literally hit everything. But this plan, it seems it's very optimistic. I'm sure somebody's going to find all sorts of holes in them.
They already have.
Financial being immediate. How are you going to pay for all this? And
people wanting him to stay in his lane. I
stay
even read
in your
that.
lane.
Stay in your lane. Don't come knocking in my backyard, telling me what to do with my job. So
can we? Is this? How much of this is really doable with the current city government system?
Well, I think that this came about because a lot of people want to say, well, what have you done? What ideas have you given? What's your plan? I've heard that a lot. What's your plan?
Right.
And here was the mayor's best attempt at saying, here's some of the ideas I have. Here's a plan that I think we might be able to do.
Some really good ones.
Good.
Yeah. And that's what people want. They want to know, well, what is your plan?
Sure.
And I think we need to provide that for them as potentially some options for us.
Yes, definitely.
So
definitely. And were these just distributed at the town hall? Is there some way for people to pick these up?
I didn't even get a copy.
What?
I'll tell you, I didn't even get a copy. That's okay.
I'm trying to hand mine over to the vice mayor.
They only had so many, and I had people coming up asking me, and I said, we have them in Spanish. We had some copies in Spanish if people want them, but I know I don't have any extras.
So last night I was in the back side because I came in as press, so I sat in the back. And as Mayor Silva was giving the rundown of the before and after of Stockton, that was distributed by ushers.
Okay.
And it was great because he was just giving it one at a time.
Nice.
And I really thought the whole presentation of the town hall meeting was exemplary. I mean, sure, like what Motek said, there could be probably a little bit things that I would changes, but overall, Mayor Silva has always had his town hall meetings, again, just to kind of hammer that down, in big halls. In in churches, or however you want to say it, in places of faith.
So.
But also what I want to mention is that Mayor Silva has always also brought all faiths together.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something not all mayors do, and something that's not even addressed in politics.
Now, Vice Mayor, you're just a heartbeat away from being the mayor.
Not interested.
So, tell the public. I mean, because one thing, it doesn't escape anyone when they meet you, that you are a dignified, honorable person with a strong personality. You speak your mind.
Who, me?
Huh? and of course. But what made you get into the vice mayor position? What made you pursue politics?
Well, I'll try to give you the short story instead of the long story. But, I've always been outspoken. I actually was given most outspoken when I graduated from high school. My class of 600, I got most outspoken. Can you believe that?
What?
Wow. And I didn't prepare a speech for that. I prepared a speech for class clown. But I was like, oh, man.
But you also won.
No, I didn't win class clown. I should have. But anyhow, I was on the planning commission, and I had people kept saying, oh, you're in politics, because Susan Eggman had done a grassroots campaign very similar to mine, going knocking door to door personally, which is what I did, and she knocked on my door, and we got to talking. And then after she was elected, she came back and said, Christina, remember me? And I said, yeah, congratulations, you won. She goes, I need a planning commissioner. And I said, a planning what? I mean, I didn't even know what it was. And she said, well, I know you're a science teacher and you'll ask questions. And I said, oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I love maps. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
I said, well, let me think about it, because it was a 4-year commitment. I'm like, I don't know. Can I commit to 4 years?
Yeah.
Little did we know I would do 8 years and be chair of the planning commission.
Yeah.
But when I went through that process, then she came back again and said, hey, when I get elected for assembly, there's going to be a vacancy. I'd like it if you throw your name into the hat to be my, to fill in, to be appointed for my seat.
Wow.
I said, oh, I don't think so. I don't know about that. Anyway, I said, well, okay. She asked me a couple times.
She
Actually,
asked
me
on.
3. Yes, she did. And so I went for that appointment, and I lost by a vote, one single vote, because it's done by the council, which is why I hate that process so much. I think it should be out to the people.
Sure, why not?
To do that replacement.
Yeah.
And so anyway, then I decided after that, because I just kind of thought it was a little shady, so to speak. I kind of think the fix was in.
Right.
But that's my own personal feeling.
We all thought that.
Yeah.
And it was tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I left there heartbroken. I put it all out there, put it all on the table, gave my all. And then I said, well, I guess I'll take it to the people. Eventually. It took me about 6 months to get there. But
which is lightning quick in politics.
Yeah. But I ended up running for the position and getting it. But I have to tell you, I look out on my students every day, and I mentioned this last night. I have students that leave this city. I don't want to call it a town, because we're not a little town anymore. We're not the small town. We are a big city, and we have big city problems. They leave this city, go away to college, and they don't bring their time, they don't bring their talent, they don't bring their treasure back to this city.
No,
They're
don't.
gone.
Right, we lose them.
And we need them back. And
We sure
I tell
do.
them, I've helped you get to that next level. I need you to come back and give back to this city, give back to somebody else, help them up.
Beautiful.
And they're just like, I can't. I won't be able to find a job there. I'm not going to be able to afford a house there. And I'm afraid to raise a family there. And I just said, that's not good enough. We have to do better.
That's right.
And so I said, well, I got to stop talking and I got to start walking. And here I am.
Well, thank goodness. Thank goodness. It's been a few years. There's been some serious roadblocks. I've been looking through. I see a lot of times you and the mayor side by side, I almost said hand in hand, but unified for, I think, very important stands, and yet, boom, brick wall on the other side. What are some things, though, you think that you were able to accomplish, some ups?
Well, when I went through my campaign, I didn't make any promises to reduce crime or do anything like that. It was very simple what I could do because I wanted to make sure it's something I could deliver on. And that was to be inclusive. Listen, I talk to any and everybody. I don't care what faction you come from in this city. I will make time, to sit down and talk with you and hear you out and let's talk about some solutions. I also said that I would be fair, and I think I've done that as well. And then the last thing, I honor the process. I mean, I want us to have discourse at every meeting. A lot of people were nauseated by the length of time we spent on the fee reduction, but I said, now that's good government.
Yeah.
We talked about it. We flushed it out. We let the cream rise to the top, and that's what I said I would do. And I asked questions. I voted no on the budget, and people were like, oh, she voted no on the budget. I brought the budget. I read through this whole thing. This isn't my copy. I loaned my copy out. I had sticky notes all up in this document here.
Yeah.
I read it. I studied it. And I wanted to make sure that I knew where money was going. I mean, the details, they say the devil's in the details.
Sure is.
But I had some really deep concerns about it. And one of the things, like you talk about accomplishments, the number one thing on my list when I went to City Hall after elected, I said was, get Fair Oaks Library off the for sale list.
All right.
And we did.
Wonderful.
And it's off the for sale. That was my number one thing. And
Excellent.
then I want to get it reopened. And I said, listen, this is what people were like, oh, I should have known how many votes I had because you got to have 4 votes to get anything passed through. All I said was, I want us to explore the budget to fund the reopening of Fair Oaks Library. And I lost 4-3 on the vote. And I said, we're just looking for the funding in the budget for next year, not even this year.
Right.
And I got shot down for that. And I said, the thing is when there's a murder, there was a white paper done on crime and came out of LA and a cost of one murder is anywhere between $4 and $12 million to a city. $4 to $12 million. A library, you put $1 into a library, you get $8 back.
Right.
So the rate of return on libraries is substantial, more
Right.
than public transportation, which is a ratio of $1 in, $4 back. I'm like, it's a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
But I guess people don't have a brain. I don't know what to say.
I was gonna
they
ask
need to be in a library.
I was going to ask Motek. I bet he knew the list of which 4 voted it down.
Oh, there's
Since it's public information, if you don't mind sharing.
Michael Tubbs voted against it. Moses Appian voted against it. Both of them are running for office this year. Susan Loftus voted against it.
Ooh, our own district.
And Albert Holman voted against it. And I think
Voted against even considering...
even exploring it.
Exploring the funding.
Yeah. And the thing, it really goes back to the issue we talked about earlier with this dynamic. I mean, there's so many layers, but we touched on it briefly when we're talking about a city manager-run government versus a strong mayor. I'm not ready to support a strong mayor here in Stockton, just like with Sacramento, because I think I just don't have faith in I would say the history of knowing politics here in Stockton.
Sure.
I don't have faith in the field, and that's no reflection, of course, because I think now if Christina Fugazi was at the helm, I'd be a little more, you know what I mean. But we don't have. Not everybody's is honest and has the integrity like Christina Fugazi.
And if we gave it to her, then the next person comes in.
But she's only there for so many years,
Yeah,
exactly, right?
yeah.
So I just think that's something. But that's a different issue. The thing is, because we have a city manager-run government. There's for instance, Councilmember Fugazi mentioned that she spent 8 years on the Planning Commission before she even considered a run for city council, and she already has the background in education as far as being an educator herself, right?
Right.
The problem we often find with Stockton and towns like ours, cities like ours, is that a lot of times the people who are in the positions of authority to make these decisions, they don't have that background. They don't have that education on public administration or government or really long-term kind of planning. What are the consequences going to be of their decisions and the unforeseen the unintended consequences, right? So what happens is they're political appointments where you have factions and interest groups that hand select people, and they say, hey, we're going to put you're going to be our horse, we're going to put you here, and we're going to really run the show, but you're going to be the mouthpiece. And too often that's the issue where you have the power concentrated in the office of the city manager, and the people they're not questioning the stance that he has, not so much because they don't have the brain or they don't support the library, but because they don't want to even like, if this guy's telling them and he's supposed to be the expert, and I know I don't have any education, any background in this, who am I to challenge him? I don't feel comfortable or confident challenging him unless I'm somebody like Councilmember Fugazi, where I read the entire budget myself. I know how to ask critical questions. I know how to, I can come to the conclusion and see how the money's adding up and how it's not. But I think there's a lot of times part-time council members that are here that are in it for the wrong reason, and they just go with the flow. They go along to get along. Right. And those are the decisions that we see come out. It's not because they did the homework or they have a valid reason to vote against the library, because we've shot them all down.
Everyone knows there's really no valid reason to not even.
And so we have to look at it, and we have to ask, well, is the real roadblock politics? Yeah. Right? Is it politics? And that's our assessment, is that it's a political issue, not so much a public policy issue. And at the end of the day, it's the community that suffers, right? And that's why it's important that more people pay attention, more people get involved, more people continue to support people like Christina Fugazi who are doing the homework. And I'm not a pro politician. If anything, I hate politicians, just by like default. Right. But I give all credit to Councilmember Fugazi, because I have seen her with my own eyes do the due diligence, do the homework, do the hard work,
take the stand.
And I can attest where she's open and willing to meet with anybody, because there's been several times where I've told her, I've tried to influence her and say, man, why are you dealing with them? Because I didn't like them, right? And I'm trying to influence, and she says, look, there's people who feel that way about you, but I still talk to you.
Okay.
So
I have said that.
So when she says that she's fair and open, like, that's a real deal statement, right?
Yes,
I had to respect that. Yes. And I had to respect that level of integrity and fairness, where that's what we need more of in this community.
Agreed. Good job. Vice Mayor Fugazi, we have an election coming up. What are your hopes for this new council?
Well, as Motek alluded to, I'm really looking for people who are independent thinkers, who are going to do their homework, who can ask those questions. I don't want to get into the group think necessarily, because that's where then it's this us against them, and there's this divisiveness. I'm not looking for that. I am looking for the discourse. I am looking for the debate. Yeah. But I want people who can, like I said, think for themselves, be able to get through this, because there is a lot of documentation that we have to go through, and rightfully so. I mean, when I signed up for this job, I knew that going in, that on top of being a teacher, that I'm gonna have another set of homework. I'm not grading it, but I've got my own homework that I've got to read and prepare for.
Sorry, we're grading you.
Yeah.
But so far you get an A.
Oh, thank you. But this next election, there's a lot of people running, and that excites me. Yeah. I like that, because I'm looking forward to hearing what people's ideas are, what they see. Are they somebody called me a cheerleader. Said, hey, ain't nothing wrong with being a cheerleader. I think that we need to. We need more people speaking about the positive things about this city instead of all the negatives. And I'll talk about crime all day, which is very negative. But I've also got some suggestions, on things that we can do.
Sure.
But we do have to find a way how to work together. And I think some people don't want to listen. Even a broken clock is right 2 times a day.
Sure.
Right?
That's right.
So when people want to say this person never has anything good to say, no good ideas, but the fact that it came out of somebody's mouth, somebody's going to be on the other side of that every single time.
Right.
That's not good government.
No, that's not. That's a lot of what we see this country going through. Really, baseline negative, automatic opposition, based on whatever
party lines,
whatever
or
reason
whatever,
that they could find to divide. We are not gonna probably ever have enough time to talk with you. Can we get you to commit to coming back? Can you come back? Even is next week too soon for you?
I got council the next 2 Tuesdays, so but I'll look at my calendar, and definitely I'd love to.
It doesn't have to be a Tuesday. We're here 5 days a week.
Oh, this is true.
Yeah, that's right. So okay, that sounds like a yes. Audience, listeners, you heard that, and Vice Mayor Fugazi keeps her word. So let's see here. Closing statements. Last words.
Well, I just would like to thank, Stockton 360 for existing, period. Because, in this city, we have one real media outlet. We have the newspaper.
Right.
And you have to realize that they're working hard, they're overworked, and it's hard for them to follow up on all the issues that we have in this city.
Sure.
And this is another way for us to get information out to people.
Yes.
But was said earlier, and I said it last night, about community involvement, and Motek alluded to that. We absolutely have to have that. And we need people to show up to these meetings, participate. And I said last night, show up, stand up, and speak out. We need to hear from the people because this is your money.
That's right.
And if you don't come to the table and tell us how you want, I'm going to put green beans on your plate whether you like it or not if you don't tell me otherwise.
That's right.
So that's
Wonderful.
it.
Eat your veggies. Motek.
Just reiterate that, echo that. I obviously give props to you guys. Continue to do what you're doing, and allowing different voices to come in here and really give more in-depth perspective on what they're doing and what they're about and what's happening to enrich this community. And I, again, people pay attention, and it's your community if you make it.
That's right.
If not, then you're just like a tumbleweed. You might as well just be blown in the wind.
Now, you have a project that you're working on, the Samir.
Yes, I almost forgot, man. Good reminder. On December 14th, our group Samias is hosting a book drive at Mile Wine Company.
Wonderful.
Which is 2113 Pacific Avenue.
All right.
Mile Wine Company is going to be from 5 to 9. It's just going to be real informal, no kind of program or anything like that. Just come through, bring a book. Our thing is, toys only last so long, clothes go out of style, but the gift of knowledge is forever.
Yes.
So we want to really encourage reading with the younger generation here in this community and just kind of affect our culture throughout the city in general, right, with more support for learning and knowledge and the love of reading and books.
Yeah.
And so we're doing a book drive for kids for the holidays. They're going to go to grade school children at different elementary schools. Montezuma Elementary on the southeast side is one of them. And we're looking for books from the grades between 1st and 6th. And so no good book will be turned away. It doesn't have to be brand new.
Yeah.
And just come through, bring a book, and have a drink, enjoy a glass of wine. You get a special discount if you bring a book. And so we're going to be raffling off a couple of gifts and just celebrating the holidays and celebrating life.
Give us that date and time again.
December 14th, Monday, at 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock.
All right. The location?
Mile Wine Company on Pacific Avenue.
All right. So, yes, wonderful. And, of course, anytime you got anything like that going on, either of you, drop us a line. You can send us an email at inbox@kwdcradio.org, press or news at kwdcradio.org, whatever works for you. But, yeah, thank you for sharing that. You have been, as with us, had the distinct pleasure of listening in on Vice Mayor Fugazi and Motekazua Sanchez. So we're really going over this town hall meeting from on Monday, in case this is a rebroadcast later. We had and this interesting brochure, Stockton Proud. I'm sure it's going to be on the internet somewhere. You could look it up. And if we get a PDF, we'll put it up on the Facebook. Also, please do. There's something else going on. You can vote for KWDC to win a $10,000 grant. It's on our website, kwdcradio.org. It's also on our Facebook page. Please click the link, vote. I think you can vote every day.
Yes, you can.
Vote a lot. A donation to KWDC is a donation to the whole community. So thank you so much, Vice Mayor Fugazi.
Thank you.
That is my last name is Mizuski, so you already know. Yeah, we have that. Motekazuma Sanchez, again, thank you for being on the show, and of course we look forward to having you back on real soon as well. You've been tuned into Stockton 360 right here on KWDC 93.5 FM. This show is brought to you by San Joaquin Delta College Radio Television Department, the KWDC Foundation, and its members. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do it. And of course, we thank you, the listeners. This is Governor Don.
Aran Zamora.
Professor Jimenez.
Stick around for more quality programming right here on The Voice of Stockton, KWDC LP Stockton.
Your future begins at San Joaquin Delta College. Delta invites you to continue your education this spring at our Stockton or Mountain House campuses and Calaveras High. Earn an associate's degree. Delta also offers over 100 technical education programs. Many courses are transferable to four-year colleges. Earn your degree at home with over 200 online classes. Apply for spring to register for classes today at deltacollege.edu. See you in class.
This was previously recorded by Ryan Cooper of Ryan's World and KWDC. Hey, what's up, guys? Ryan Cooper here of Ryan's World and KWDC. There's a few things I want to cover regarding life and the importance in appreciating one's beating heart and inflating lungs. This is Cooper Scoop. A lot of people do things in life. Mental, physical, spiritual, personal, financial. They like to eat. I think we all eat food. But there are some people that suffer from obesity and health-related issues that bother them, just as myself. Now, I'm not one to say, hey, be fat and be happy. No. But there's one thing I will say, that if I am fat and you do not support that, or you do not respect me for me